Hello everybody, welcome back to Bill's Seadoo Midlife Crisis. We're in my garage with my O2 GTX ready to begin painting, and I'm going to flip the camera around, just explain what I've done so far, and I'm actually going to start priming it now, not actually painting it, but it's been all prep work, which I didn't record, so I'll just kind of describe it. I thought it was kind of boring, but I'll let you know what I did. Okay, as you can see, I've sanded the bottom of the boat here, taken all the decals off, fixed a few little dings. So I'm on a dolly, as you can see, so it's not perfect for painting, because I'm going to roll and tip this with Interlux Brightside, which I know, don't send me messages, I know is not recommended for under the waterline, but I am going to use it anyway because I read a bunch of reviews where they say, and some documents from Interlux themselves, that if you keep the boat out of the water for the majority of the time, up to 3 days at the most, you can use their paint and it should hold up and not bubble or peel. So we'll see. As you can see, I have not taken the sponsons off, and I intended to, but there was a strip bolt in this one and I couldn't get it out. So, and it's like next to impossible to reach. So I'm not taking that out, and the off power steering fins I'm also not taking out. And I think I've mentioned this in another video, because I don't want to risk them not going back in well and sealing up well. As you can see, I also have the pump in, so I'm going to paint around the pump and not completely paint in here until next time I have the pump off. I didn't want to take the pump off specifically, I just had it off. So there you go, I'm sanded. I used 150 grit paper all the way around. I ended up doing most of it by hand. I found I was using a handheld rotary, oscillating sander with discs, and that was working okay, but there's so many non-flat areas on this hull, or on any hull I guess, that it doesn't work very well. So I found that I could do it by hand, pretty much as fast, and this hull's in pretty good shape, so there wasn't much to fix. Sorry, I'm right in the light there, you can't see anything. You can't really see, but it's in really good shape, and I think it's going to turn out. So I'm going to prime it with Interlux Pre-Cote primer, which is right there, with a roller, and I'm going to do one coat and see how it goes. If I have to do another, I'm going to thin that out with 333 Interlux 333 thinner, 10% or so, maybe only 5%, and we'll see how it goes. And that's kind of that. I cleaned it with soap and water, and then I also gave it the big rub down with acetone, so it should be as clean as it needs to be. So here we go. I'll show you when I get a coat of primer on. That shouldn't be too exciting. I'm just going to roll it on. Okay, welcome back to my O2 painting project, my GTX. I skipped a few steps, so I'm going to turn the camera around and kind of bring you up to date, so you can catch up to where I am right now. I think where I left off as I was sanding, or I just sanded, and I primed, but let me talk about that. I'll turn the camera around. Okay, so it's the bottom part of this guy that we are talking about, and it's black now, as you can see. So I didn't film any of the priming because I was under a little bit of pressure to get the priming done. So I primed, if I'll just refresh you, with Interlux Pre-Cote primer, which I have over here. This stuff right here, that stuff right there. And I did not, or I did, I should say, I thinned it out with 10% of the 333 thinner, and it was hard to work with, very runny. But I got it primed, and I only did one coat, and it turned out okay. It wasn't amazing, but it was just on the bottom. I sanded it with 320. So I sanded the primer with 320, and it was good. It was nice and smooth, and cleaned it with acetone and got it all nice and clean. And then I put this coat of the Brightside on. And as you can see, now this is just the first coat. This is probably, yeah, see, that's just the first coat. It's very brush marky, and I think I rolled it and tipped it. And I've done that before, and I've gotten a really nice smooth, it's not like terrible, but it's not great either. This is just, again, the first coat, but I did not thin it, which I think was a mistake. So this time around, I'm gonna sand this again with 320 and try to get some of that texture, all those brush marks, try to get as many of those out as possible, smooth them out, knock them down, and then I'm going to do another coat with about 5% 333 thinned out, so that hopefully the paint will flow out a bit better. And my brush will, when I'm tipping, was getting pretty sticky, even though I was trying to keep some paint and thinner on it and everything. So I'm going to do that this time around. You'll notice that I have this, my sponsons taped off. And for the first coat, it didn't occur to me, I had this piece was still on. And you might be asking, and I've mentioned it before, why don't you just take the sponsons off? Which would make way more sense. And I agree. But some of these bolts are stripped. Not stripped, but they're spinning on the inside. So the sponson is nice and tight, but I can't get the bolt off. And I don't want to go through the massive hassle. I have to still clean this up because I just took that off. And the massive hassle of trying to get them off. So I'm just taping them off. So it's a bit of a hassle, but it'll be fine in the end. And but I took that off, and now I have a lot more clearance here. So when I put that back on, it'll look nice and crisp. So anyway, that's what we're doing. So I'm going to put the camera up. I'll record a little bit of sanding, but sanding's pretty boring. The bottom of the boat turned out, actually, I don't know how you can see it, but it turned out really pretty well. So I'm going to give the bottom, I'm going to give the whole thing a nice sanding, and then we're going to put, I'll tape some of the painting so you guys can see. You're going to see why this job kind of sucks. I'm on the cement floor, which is not that much fun, so maybe it would be a good idea to get something comfortable to kneel on, but in any case, I do have a Okay, I am going to show you my little process here for rolling and tipping. I've done all the other side. And what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, is I roll a section on the bottom and tip it, and then I roll another section here and tip it, and up to here, and then I do this, because this is the part that I want to look the best. So it's difficult because you can only do sections at a time that you want to, and you've got, you know, so much space to do. So I do a section there, then a section here, and now I'll do this section. And I'm almost out of paint, so I'm going to show you. Almost out of paint, I have to mix some more, much to say. So I've got my tipping brush over here, and I have a little bit of thinner in there, and this is just my brush that I use for spots that I can't reach, and then my roller. So I start by rolling. So I'm doing this section from here over to here. So like this. It's nothing. There's nothing really magical about it. You can see all the bubbles, and that's what we're going to tip out. And I try to get up, I've got this taped, so I'm not getting paint on my rub rail, because I don't want to use the brush, or I want to use the brush as little as possible. My little detail brush here is I'm just doing this top portion up here, because you can't, anyway, you don't want, it leaves brush marks, so you don't want to, you want to use it as little as possible. So, okay, so there it is, it's in. Maybe some brush marks there, and it also sometimes promotes runs. So my tipping brush, I'm just going to start here, and as lightly as I can, tip across, like so. You're supposed to be on a bit of an angle, and again, you're supposed to be as light as possible. And I have a little bit of thinner on the end of this, the 333 Interlux, and that just helps this slide through the paint without grabbing it as you know, a little bit better than if it were. Believe me, I've tried it a few different ways, and when you don't have the thinner, it really does grab the paint and leave a lot of marks. So that is that, and we'll see how it dries. This is my second coat, as you may know. So it's starting to, like, the coverage is starting to get a lot more uniform, which is nice. And it's starting to look better. Hopefully this will spread out and look less roll and paint and more spray. It looks 1,000 times better than the first coat did, so I'm confident. Anyway, that's how I do it, and as I'm talking to you, I see a run. So it's tricky. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, and there's a reason why. This is not really the preferred way of painting, but you can get a good result. It's tricky. So when I'm done, I'll do a walk around. Okay, so coat number 2 is done, and it is looks good. I mean, if we get right in, you can see my phone. You can see how glassy and glossy it gets. But it's starting to, there's a lot less texture in it this time on this coat, and you know, that's without, it's going to need sanding and polishing, but it's going to need another coat, at least one more, if not 2. You can see a little bit of a sag right there. Let's see if I can point it out. Right there. So try to sand that out there. I mean, it's hard to avoid, but it's with the paint as thin as it is tricky, but I mean, it's turning out pretty well. Here's the front. So what I think I'm gonna do is, I don't know if I'm gonna do a third coat on the bottom, like down here, but I am gonna do a third coat from here, right here, up. So basically from here, that spot right there, up to here. So I'm gonna really concentrate on that, you know, all the way around, to try to, you know, make this look as good as possible when it's in the water, and not worry so much about the bottom, which, you know, to be honest, looks pretty good. Again, it's too early to tell because it's still drying, it's still very wet, but like I say, second coat, 1,000,000 times better.